Bin Laden also praised the work of Michael Scheuer, who oddly enough made a career out of trying to capture or kill him. He is the former head of the CIA's Bin Laden unit. We spoke earlier tonight along with CNN terrorism analyst Peter Bergen. And Michael, in the tape, Bin Laden also makes mention, he says Americans should convert to Islam if they want the war in Iraq to end. You see a threat in that message to convert. How so?
Well, the Prophet Muhammad was very clear in his direction to Muslims before they attack to offer a truce, to warn the enemy very carefully, and to offer them a chance to convert to Islam. If they did that, there would be no more need to fight. And implicit in the offer of conversion is if you don't convert, 9/11 is going to happen again at a worse level.
Michael, you were mentioned by name in this tape, and Laden said, quote, if you would like to get to know some of the reasons for your losing of your war against us, then read the book of Michael Scheuer in this regard. For those who haven't read your book, just tell us briefly what he's referring to.
Well, he's just referring to the basic fact that our political leaders on both sides of the aisle have confidently, we're fighting an enemy that doesn't exist. It's not to say we should change our policy, but unfortunately, we're fighting an enemy that doesn't exist. Now, the only chance we have as a country right now is for Osama bin Laden to deploy and detonate a major weapon in the United States, because it's going to take a grassroots, bottom-up pressure, because these politicians prize their office, prize the praise of the media and the Europeans. It's an absurd situation again. Only Osama can execute an attack which will force Americans to demand that their government protect them effectively, consistently, and with as much violence as necessary.
Purpose of the 9/11 attacks. Sheikh Mohammed said that the purpose of the attack on the Twin Towers was to, quote-unquote, wake the American people up. Sheikh Mohammed said that if the target had been strictly military or government, the American people would not focus on the atrocities that America is committing by supporting Israel against the Palestinian people.
Clinton was even more clueless after he had a chance to kill America's most dangerous enemy 10 times and he didn't do it. Americans should not have to listen to their enemy to understand what this war is about, and yet that's what's happening.
Could you tell us then, as the man who used to head the CIA search for this?
Now, the only chance we have as a country right now is for Osama bin Laden to deploy and detonate a major weapon in the United States, because it's going to take a grassroots, bottom-up pressure, because these politicians prize their office, prize the praise of the media and the Europeans. It's an absurd situation again. Only Osama can execute an attack which will force Americans to demand that their government protect them effectively, consistently, and with as much violence as necessary.
But it wouldn't be anything like a far-fetched notion to say that U.S. intelligence places people in the media and in other institutions to appear to be opponents when in fact they are directing public opinion into corners that assist what the U.S. ruling elite is trying to do.
Now, the only chance we have as a country right now is for Osama bin Laden to deploy and detonate a major weapon in the United States, because it's going to take a grassroots, bottom-up pressure, because these politicians prize their office, prize the praise of the media and the Europeans. It's an absurd situation again. Only Osama can execute an attack which will force Americans to demand that their government protect.
Of course, the early CIA comprised a significant number of former Nazi officials. Would you say that this is directly connected to events today, or is it simply coincidence that the early CIA included so many former Nazis?
Well, I would say that if you create, well, just to expand just a second on that point, when we say significant, it's better to put actual numbers on it. U.S. intelligence was created by recruiting tens of thousands of former Nazis. So this was the bulk of the people being recruited to U.S. intelligence in the early years. It was done through the what was called the Gehlen Org, which was Reinhard Gehlen's organization, which itself was a recreation of German Nazi intelligence under the supervision of U.S. authorities who recruited Reinhard Gehlen after the war to do this. Now, if you create your intelligence services by recruiting tens of thousands of Nazis, naturally, this is because you don't particularly have an anti-Nazi policy. And the consequence over the long term of creating your intelligence services with these many Nazis will naturally be to put particular tendency or bias on the foreign policy that gets designed by these intelligence services. So naturally, I think there's a relationship.